And welcome. We are in 303 and we return now back to our study of Mr. Conrad's Unstoppable volume. We are in lesson 42 on page 146 and following, and I hope that you're also in your journals there. If you would please make a note really quickly of the focus now of this chapter, hammer time as Mr. Conrad calls it, is the notion of using, write this down, negative stuff to make you stronger. In fact, we'll even quote the Nietzsche line later, that which does not destroy me makes me stronger. Mr. Conrad, in his volume, as you already know, enjoys using certain kinds of biographic information of students of his of the past who have gone on to be very successful. We are going to hear about one of those students in this chapter, lesson 42, hammer time. Let's read together. I held the wooden mallet high over my head. Quote, "This mallet is a symbol of today's Friday story," end quote, I said to my class. It was made by Matt Petrusky, and it's symbolic of the way he was hammered by his classmates. Matt was a tall, overweight, red-headed kid with a West Virginia accent. Almost immediately, many of his classmates started hammering away at Matt. He was the new kid in town and didn't take to the constant hammering very well. One day, Matt came to class and threw his brand new Sony Walkman, shattering it to pieces down. Another day, he punched the cinder block wall and severely hurt his hand. On more than one occasion, I talked to Matt about controlling his temper. Don't let those idiots get to you, I told him. I like Matt. I felt kind of sorry for him, actually. Most kids don't take the time to really get to know the new kid in town. Matt really liked my class, and he loved the Friday stories. So in December of 1998, his mother called and said she needed to talk to me. It's urgent, she said. It was Matt's freshman year, and his mom had a strange request. Would you tell Matt he has to move back to West Virginia with us? In all my years of teaching, I never had a request like that. My response was, you're his mother, just tell him he's going. She told me, you don't understand. Matt won't leave because of you and your class, especially because of those stories you tell. My husband and I told him he'd have to go, but he refused. If he doesn't go, I'll have to stay here too. I assured her that I would talk to Matt. However, I made her no guarantees that he'd listen. Sure enough, Matt refused to move. He said my class was his favorite ever. His mom stayed behind with him. The rest of his family moved back to West Virginia. At the beginning of the summer, Matt and his mom packed up their stuff to move back with the family. It seemed like Matt's goodbye lasted all week long. He was over at my house almost every night, along with presents each time. I started wondering if they were ever going to leave. When I waved the final goodbye, I felt a sense of relief. One less kid to raise. I was wrong. Matt's mother later told me that he recited Friday story after Friday story to her nonstop during the 4-hour drive to Denver. Less than a year went by, and in the spring of 2001, I looked up at the door during my last art class. There stood Matt's mother. She was frantic and needed to talk. Matt's threatened to walk back to Colorado. I need to get him back in this class. I couldn't believe it. Here we go again, I thought. I found out after Matt got back to Craig that the kids in West Virginia accused him of being involved in the Columbine High School tragedy. Our high school's over 250 miles away from Columbine. But that didn't matter to the kids in West Virginia. Matt had moved from Colorado and they wanted to believe it. He was receiving death threats and was asked to leave his school. It was unsafe for him to be there. More hammering. Matt graduated from our high school in 2003. During his senior year, he was in my class 4 times a day. That's right, 4 times a day. He participated in Santa's workshop, made a wooden toy for one of the students, or for every one of the kids in our town, Traditionally, on the day of Santa's workshop, all the kids who made the toys dress up as elves. We call it Hug an Elf Day. The kids get recognized for their hard work and get hugged by all the girls in school. It's a fun day and the whole school gets into it. Matt got hugged that day by the hottest girl, one of the varsity cheerleaders. She was also one of the most popular girls as well. After she hugged Matt, she turned to her friend and said, that Matt Petowski, he's a blanking freak. She said it loud enough for Matt to hear. The hammering continued. Matt enlisted in the Navy after high school. Today he's an aviation mechanic and a 3rd-class petty officer. He called me one night from Japan and he talked for over an hour and a half. It was great to hear from him. I was glad he didn't call collect. By the way, collect in the old days means that you call and reverse the charges so that whoever receives the phone call has to pay for the phone call. In addition to Japan, Matt had been to Australia, Hong Kong, Guam, South Korea, Singapore, and Thailand. On September 19th, 2005, I received a letter in the mail from Commander J.F. Merritt of the U.S. Navy. Here's what it said. 19 September 2005. Dear Mr. Craig Conrad, I would like to thank you for the exceptional service Matt Petrowski has provided to VAQ-136, the U.S. Navy, and this great nation. Our squadron has been stationed in Japan for over 20 consecutive years, and despite the greatest distance from home, we have developed into the finest squadron in the Navy. We were recently awarded the Commander, Naval Air Force's Pacific Fleet Battle E in recognition as the finest EA-6B squadron in the Pacific Fleet. I realize that this accomplishment comes as a result of the hard work and commitment to excellence that the men and women of VAQ-136 exhibit on a day-in, day-out basis. As a part of the forward deployed naval forces, we are called upon to serve missions in the Far East and the Southern Pacific Ocean. The Gauntlets have met these missions with unprecedented success. The squadron has flown nearly every day, and we've met every operational commitment in support of our national interests. I could not be more proud of the accomplishments of Matthew and this squadron. I know full well that this success as a command rides on the shoulders of dedicated professionals like Matthew. The peace and freedom all Americans enjoy is directly attributable to the efforts and commitment of the sailors of the United States Navy, and Eamon Petrowski as one of the finest I've ever known. I am truly blessed as a commanding officer to have such fine men and women make up this great squadron. You can be proud of Matthew. I know that I am. Again, thank you for your tremendous support. Fly Navy. Sincerely, J.F. Muir, Commander, U.S. Navy, Commanding Officer. A few years ago, I made a scrapbook for the woodshop. It's huge. The pages are about 2 foot by 3 foot, and you need 2 hands just to turn them. There's 26 years of memorabilia in it. One page has a picture of Matt and the letter from the commander of the U.S. Navy. On Monday, January 16, 2006, I heard from one of the teachers at school, Matt Petrowski is looking for you. I said, impossible. He just called me the night before from West Virginia. He was back home for a few days only. Sure enough, when I got to class, there he was. He and his dad had driven all night to get there. Matt had lost over 100 pounds. He looked the best I'd ever seen him. He'd come back to say hi and to thank me for the Friday stories. He also took pictures of his page in the scrapbook. A few days later, Matt left. I went to the local bank. The girl in front of me was the one that had called Matt the blanking freak. I asked her, how are you doing? She said she was driving 80 miles a day to work in a restaurant for minimum wage. She said, how are you? I couldn't resist. I said, great. I just saw Matt Petrowski the other day. He's an aviation mechanic in the Navy. I got a letter from the commander of the U.S. Navy saying what a great job he's doing. Matt's been to Australia, Hong Kong, Guam, Japan, South Korea, Singapore, and Thailand. She said, that's nice. I thought to myself, you're right. That is nice. I reflected on the irony of it all. Matt traveling the world and representing our country, and her working in a restaurant for minimum wage. Sometimes when you hammer and bend and twist certain types of metal, you help to shape it and make it stronger. Great job, Matt. Don't forget to dig your pond. And then the final statement, when life hammers away at you, realize it's just helping to forge the unstoppable you. Let's pause for a moment and jot down a few notes in our journals. This is a quote that many of my seniors have put on a wall, especially when they're in a dorm room and they're starting to feel a little bit down. It's the famous Nietzsche line, that which does not destroy me makes me stronger. I have students every year who sit in 303 who can say that is an absolutely true statement. If you are not destroyed by the challenges, they only make you stronger. I'd like to point out as well, number 2, think about this. Let's start to use past successes, even if they're small ones, to inform ourselves that we can do well in the future. Build towards and through new challenges. Using past success to remind ourselves, I know I can get through this experience I'm in right now, even though it's challenging, because I got through this other experience once before when I thought, dude, I'm going to quit. I got to give up. And I didn't, and I made it. I should point out, by the way, This is really one of the primary reasons that we have high school athletics. This is one of the primary reasons why we have high school activities, forensics and drama and the like. Because as you're going through the experience, you have challenges that you somehow negotiate, and then you can use that information later in your life when you come up against the really difficult challenges. Finally, number 3, how about this one? Let's ask this question. Can we stop hammering on people? We have a tendency to do this, don't we? Especially those who are not like us, those who are different from us, those who we don't like. We have a tendency to want to, of course, our language in high school is bullying, but Mr. Conrad's language of hammering may be even more provocative. Right? Can we just learn to accept people for what they are, who they are, without trying to somehow expect them to change to become like us? And then, of course, the other way around. When you are hammered, when you are mistreated, can you fight back with love? This, it seems to me, is one of the greatest challenges of them all, right? To be able to respond appropriately to a negative kind of comment, to a negative kind of action, and in the process, beginning to grow through the experience of some kind of negative hammering. Well, there you go, lesson 42. Way to go, Matt.